Just different items. And the last item that I brought to prove that I'm down, just as down as you guys. You guys love this one. Close. What is this? Pedigree dog food. Apparently it's the best. I don't know if you've had it before, but I've never tasted it before. Now, the first thing I was going to do was I was actually going to have you guys line up and see which one of you guys would eat which one. But because we're being considerate of time, you're going to decide for me which one I'm going to eat.
Dog food. Dog food.
Hold on. Fruit cocktail and heavy syrup. Dog food. Our parents, ready? You guys are gonna vote. This is chopped beef. It does. It changes everything. I don't have a dog, but I'm sure he'd be unhappy if I got chicken. So, everyone that votes pears, okay? Everyone that votes fruit cocktail, everyone that votes dog food. Guys, it looks like dog food has won. So, I said I would do it. I'm just gonna prove to you guys I'm just as down as you guys. I had to get an easy open can. So I got an easy open can, guys. I brought my fork. Let's go, Joe. All right, ready? Wait. I went up before. That's disgusting. But the label says it's dog food. It's not. But no. Wait, the label says cheater. But what's on the outside counts. No. The problem with today's generation is everything on the outside is determining what's on the inside. And we give value to people based upon the clothes that they wear and what's on the outward appearance. And we're focusing so much on the fact that what you guys didn't recognize is this label doesn't even fit this can. But because this label said dog food, you believed it. And there's people all around the world that have and wear labels. And we'll call them the losers. We'll call them the loners. We'll call them different labels and give them different names based upon where they sit and who they associate with and who they talk to. We'll give them certain different labels. But the truth of the matter is, on Christmas morning, when you walk out and you see presents under the tree, how many of you play with the gift wrapping? I do. I'm going to get you all gift wrapping for Christmas. Forget the Xbox, forget the PlayStation, just give me some gift wrapping. No, but the truth of the matter is, nobody plays with the gift wrapping. What you do is, you play with what's inside. Because it doesn't matter what's on the outward, and it doesn't matter what's on the outside, but what you're really concerned about is what's inside. What we're worried about today is this verse. Jesus or God tells Samuel, don't look like man looks. Because man is so preoccupied, 17:6 please, or 16:7 please, so preoccupied on what's on the outside, that the truth is, what really counts, what really matters, is what's on the inside. Because what if we would have eaten pears? I said pears! I changed them because I wanted to show you that no matter how much you change the outward appearance, in fact, in America today, we spend billions and billions of dollars to try to fix our outward appearance.
Right.
But it doesn't matter how much money you spend. Because nothing will be invested inwardly, you'll still be outwardly messed up. And my biggest concern or worry about a generation that worries so much on the outward is that we have people who are just existing and not living. Because to be really alive, to be fully alive, there has to be some changes that begin to work itself on the inside. Paul said there's these believers that are the walking dead because they have a lot of things working on the outside. They look like they're alive. They look like everything's okay. And he even called the Pharisees tombs because they looked painted and nice on the outside, but inside they were filled with dead and nasty things. And I'm so worried that we probably bring up a generation that is so preoccupied with talents and abilities and outward things that they don't become preoccupied on what's inside, because what's inside is what really matters. You are not your style. You are not your style. David gets anointed to be king, and his dad goes out and buys him the most blingingest coat ever. No. David gets anointed to be king, and they have this huge celebration and party to announce, my son is going to be king. No. You know what David gets to do after he's anointed to be king? He gets kicked back to do and pick up sheep dung. He gets to work back with the sheep. The second thing I want you to realize is you are not your situation. His situation said, you're just a shepherd boy. But the revelation was, you're a king. His situation told him one thing, but the revelation that he received from God told him something different. The most difficult thing about Christianity is sometimes God tells us things in our ears that doesn't relate to what we're seeing with our eyes. And sometimes God will speak something before it actually happens, and you have to have the faith that believes in something before it even comes about. There's something about, see, and I want to break this down further, because there's two things that we deal with in Christianity. One is conviction. Conviction is, I made a mistake. The other thing is condemnation. Now, conviction comes from God, but condemnation comes from the enemy, because conviction says, I made a mistake, where condemnation says, I am a mistake. And far too many take ownership of their situation or take ownership of their mistake. I remember in California, I was a youth pastor, and I was dropping off some kids at the end of our youth service. I was dropping off some kids, and the very last person, Joe, I remember it clearly, his name was Joe, and he was sitting next to me in the car, and we're just talking about the lesson and what we're going through, and we're talking about something similar that we talked about today, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, he breaks down and cries. And I'm like, I pull over on the side of the road and I said, what's wrong, Joe? And he said, I'm a mistake. Joe, what do you mean you're a mistake? I said, well, when my dad was in high school, he was one of the best running backs in the entire nation. Newspaper articles were writing all about him. Colleges were trying to get him and challenging him. I want you. They said that they were calling him all the time, that they want them for full ride scholarships coming to their schools all the time. He was so good he couldn't even ride with the other players in the car because scouts were worried about them getting too excited and hurting him while he's on the bus. But during his senior year, before ever committing to any college, Joe's dad ended up getting his high school girlfriend pregnant. And that was Joe. And forever, his family referred to him as a mistake. Because if not, then they may have gone